Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the introduction of the sunscreen. So the earliest form of sunscreen was created by Franz Grete in 1938 and then Benjamin Green in 1944 who used a mixture of cocoa butter and veterinary petroleum to protect his skin from the sun. Shortly afterwards, Franz Grete branded his formula which is Peaspoon while Mr. Green marketed his as Coppertone Suntan Cream. And then Franz Grete went on to produce the sun protection factor rating that is still used as today. We know it as SPF. Sunscreen is also known as sunblock, suntan lotion, sunscreen, sunburn, and is a lotion, spray, gel, or other typical product that absorb or reflect some of the sun's ultraviolet, which is UV radiation on the skin that is exposed to sunlight and thus help to protect against sunburn. It contains one or more active ingredients like oxybenzone, avobenzone, oxysalate, and others.
Now we go to the chemical composition of sunscreen. The first chemical that might contain in our sunscreen is zinc oxide, which is act as a bulking agent and a colorant. It has a function to reflect and scatter UV radiation and also has a function to prevent sunburn and premature aging of the skin in our sunscreen. Next, the chemical that might contain in our sunscreen is titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide acts as a UV light absorber, and because it has a very small particle in size, it does not reflect visible light. Thus, titanium dioxide enabling a transparent barrier to protect the skin from the sun harmful rays. And also, titanium dioxide helps to prevent the occurrence of skin cancer in our sunscreen. Other chemicals that might contain in our sunscreen rather than zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are octinoxate, octisalate, and also avobenzone. These chemicals right here contain a carbon-containing molecules that has a function to absorb light.
Present about the sunscreens that are suitable for some of the most common skin types. Firstly, sunscreen suitable for dry skin is sunscreen that contains moisturizer or a cream-based sunscreen. Cream-based sunscreen is recommended for dry skin as it offers moisturizing effects on the skin. Sunscreen containing hydrating ingredients like ceramides or hyaluronic acid is also suitable because it helps alleviate dry skin. Next, sunscreen suitable for oily skin is water-based or a lightweight formula sunscreen. This is because water-based sunscreen gives a cooling effect for oily skin. People with oily skin also need to use sunscreen that contain hydrating ingredients like natrium hyaluronate. Natrium hyaluronate is the salt form of famous humectant and natural moisturizing factor hyaluronic acid. The reason people with oily skin need to use sunscreen that contains hydrators because to avoid the production of excess sebum by the sebaceous glands underneath the hair follicles. Lastly, sunscreen suitable for sensitive skin is the one that contains zinc oxide or titanium oxide because it protects the skin by providing a physical shield between the skin and the sun's harmful rays. People with sensitive skin should avoid fragrant sunscreen since it might cause irritation, redness, and sensitivity. They also need to find sunscreen that oil-free and contains hydrators. This is to prevent the pore from clogging. One example of ingredients that can clog pores is isopropyl palmitate. Hence, please avoid using sunscreen containing this ingredient. That is all from me. Thank you.
Ingredients. So for the chemical, it contains oxybenzone and octinoxate. But for physical, or we can call it as mineral sunscreen, it contains zinc oxide and titanium oxide. Okay, so what are the differences? So for chemical, it uses ingredients that absorb and transform UV rays into heat. Takes up to 20 minutes for chemical formulas to take effect, and it is lightweight and non-greasy texture. That is chemical for you. And for physical, it uses minerals that sit on top of skin and reflect away UV lights. Works immediately when applied, and it has a thicker texture. So for these two types of sunscreens, to differentiate it, first you have to look at the ingredients. What I just mentioned, chemical, it uses like oxybenzate or octinoxate. But for physical, or we call it as mineral, we said that it contains zinc oxide or titanium oxide. Okay, so next, we usually people find a spray moisturizer like sunscreen type. So as I advise, choose lotions because it is far more effective than the spray moisturizer sunscreens. And we have to consider the usage. For instance, like for mineral sunscreens is better because you use at a longer duration. But if you are going for swimming, if you go for active sports, recommend you to use chemical sunscreens if to not wear it off that easily. And next, you don't focus on SPF numbers, because when you look at the SPF numbers, you will look at the higher risk and the lower risk factors. But just so you know, the more lower the SPF numbers is more better. And usually when you look at the SPF numbers, when it is too high, so you have the risk factor actually. Okay. So next, you need to apply properly. So even though you have chemical sunscreens and mineral sunscreens, both of them you have to apply properly to for that sunscreen to take in effect. And you have to reapply. Why do I say to you have to reapply? Because for every 2 hours, okay, after you have do sports or when you go to the beach and get tanning, you have to apply the sunscreen every 2 hours, because the chemical sunscreen and physical sunscreen, both it will use up in a matter of a duration. It is not for the whole duration, like a longer duration, what I supposedly say. And don't skip it, because when you wear sunscreen, it protects your skin from having too much UV rays onto your skin. It will cause damage and it will cause your skin to become uh more drier. So which is why when you wear a sunscreen, do not ever skip, even though it is chemical sunscreen or physical sunscreen. So these are the two types of sunscreens that you should know. And what I can say is that look in terms of the ingredients so that you won't be confused whether if you want to use chemical or physical sunscreens. And that is it.
Okay, since there are two types of sunscreens, which are chemical and physical, so I'll be comparing the pros and cons of both chemical and physical sunscreens. The pros of chemical sunscreen are it has thinner formulation that makes the application easier as it will spread more easily on the skin. Thus, as it spread easily on skin, we just need smaller amounts to cover areas of skin. It also may not leave white cast or minimal white cast after applying the sunscreen. Furthermore, chemical sunscreen may contain other skincare ingredients such as peptide and growth factors, which can provide added benefits to the skin. The cons of chemical sunscreen are it requires some time to become effective after application. Next, it also has high chance of causing irritation and stinging, especially those have dry skin with a damaged moisture barrier. This is due to multiple ingredients combined in order to achieve broad spectrum UVA and UVB protection. Chemical sunscreen also requires frequent reapplication, especially when we are exposed to direct sunlight. Moving on to the pros of physical sunscreen, it offers protection against both UVA and UVB rays. It has also unlikely to cause irritation on the skin, thus it's a great option for those with sensitive skin types. There is also no wait needed for physical sunscreen to take effect as it works as soon as it is applied on the skin. It also has a longer shelf life when exposed to direct UV light. The cons of physical sunscreen are it can be rubbed off more easily, especially when it comes in contact with water or sweat. It also may leave white casts on the skin, which require more efforts to fully rub in. Physical sunscreen tends to be thicker and will have physical appearance.